Hey Vikings Nation, what's going on? Get comfortable, because today we're diving into a pattern that's becoming impossible to ignore in Minnesota. This is about belief, pressure, and a franchise standing at a crossroads. And trust me, this story hits right at the heart of what it means to be a Minnesota Vikings fan. Here's the teaser that should grab you immediately. Stability is finally here, the culture is strong, the locker room believes, but January success still hasn't arrived. That's the tension defining the Kevin O'Connell era right now, and it's growing louder every single season. So the big question hanging over TCO Performance Center is simple but brutal. When does all this progress finally turn into playoff wins? Let's break it all down together, Vikings fans, because this offseason could define the future of this franchise. The pattern is becoming clear with Kevin O'Connell, and it's impossible to ignore. Since arriving in 2022, he's brought calm after chaos, replacing the fallout of the Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman regime. Players buy in, the locker room energy is healthier, and the organization feels aligned again. But there's one thing missing, and in the NFL, it's everything. Playoff success. No matter how good the vibes are in September or October, January is where legacies are built, and this is where the Vikings keep stumbling. And that's why this conversation matters so much right now. Because patience in the NFL doesn't last forever, especially when your rivals are stacking postseason wins right in front of you. Let's look around the NFC North, and this is where it really starts to sting. The Chicago Bears, under first-year head coach Ben Johnson, just pulled off a wild-card comeback win over the Green Bay Packers. A rookie coach, instant playoff impact. Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell already has 2 playoff wins from the 2023 season, leading Detroit all the way to the NFC Championship game. That's not just success, that's momentum. And then there's Green Bay. Matt LaFleur has 3 playoff wins, with his most recent coming in 2023. That leaves Kevin O'Connell as the only NFC North head coach without a postseason victory. That's the reality, and it's uncomfortable. What makes this tougher is that O'Connell isn't failing in the regular season. Far from it. He's the reigning NFL Coach of the Year, a title that reflects real respect around the league. His career record with the Minnesota Vikings sits at 43 wins and 27 losses. That's a 61.4% winning percentage, which most franchises would celebrate without hesitation. But the playoffs are a different conversation. Twice since 2022, the Vikings have fallen in the first round. And fair or not, that's where the pressure starts to mount. This pressure feels familiar to longtime Vikings fans. We've seen this movie before. A solid regular season team that just can't climb over the postseason hump. That exact dilemma eventually doomed the previous regime. Zimmer and Spielman built competitive rosters, but missing meaningful playoff success sealed their fate. And now, even with a different culture and a modern offensive mind in charge, the same ghost is hovering over the franchise once again. To understand why, we have to go back to the quarterback position, where so many Vikings eras rise or fall. After Case Keenum's magical 2018 run to the conference title game, expectations skyrocketed. The Vikings believed they were one quarterback away. A signal caller who could elevate the offense and complement the league's #1 defense at the time. That belief led to Kirk Cousins, a move that immediately split opinions inside and outside the organization. Cousins delivered stability, but the ceiling always felt limited. In the early years of Cousins' deal, when the contract was more manageable, the Vikings couldn't capitalize. Draft misses piled up, depth eroded, and cap space tightened. The roster slowly atrophied, leaving little flexibility to build through free agency. The result? Competitive teams that never truly threatened for a Super Bowl. That failure eventually cost Zimmer and Spielman their jobs in 2022, clearing the way for Kevin O'Connell and general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah to reshape the franchise. The new regime eventually made the bold call to move on from Cousins. It wasn't easy, and it came with real risk, but it signaled a philosophical shift. They struck gold in the short term with Sam Darnold, while first-round pick J.J. McCarthy was sidelined during his rookie year in 2024. It was a bridge strategy, not a destination. O'Connell made it clear, though, that McCarthy was the future. That commitment shaped everything that followed. Because of that commitment, Darnold moved on in search of a long-term deal elsewhere. Several veteran stopgap options also stayed away. Names like Daniel Jones and Aaron Rodgers were linked in speculation, but ultimately never became part of the plan. The Vikings chose patience over insurance. And that decision brought consequences. The offense went through a turbulent year as McCarthy worked through injuries and development. Now, entering McCarthy's third season, the Vikings are staring at reality. Betting on a young quarterback means accepting growing pains, and those pains don't wait. Cap space and roster depth can't always compensate for inconsistency at the most important position in football. That's the gamble Minnesota has made. Moving on from Cousins lowered the floor. His presence guaranteed competitive football deep into the season, even if the ceiling was limited. Cousins delivered just one playoff win in 6 seasons, but he kept the Vikings relevant every year. That safety net is now gone. What remains is upside, uncertainty, and pressure. And that combination defines this offseason more than any other storyline. So now we arrive at the most vital decision facing the Minnesota Vikings. Quarterback. Everything comes back to it. If the Vikings miss the postseason again next year, history tells us what comes next. Back-to-back playoff misses were the ultimatum that ended the previous regime. It's not fair to say Kevin O'Connell is on the hot seat entering 2026. But if this team is playing meaningless football late in the season, the conversation will change fast. That's why this decision matters so much. Is J.J. McCarthy truly the unquestioned starter, the franchise cornerstone, the guy to ride with no matter what? Or does this team need to bring in a proven veteran to create competition, raise the floor, and protect the season if things wobble? This isn't just about wins and losses. It's about direction, belief, and whether the Minnesota Vikings are ready to take the next step or repeat the same painful cycle. Now I want to hear from you, Vikings fans. What would you do at quarterback this offseason? Is it McCarthy's job to lose, or do you want real competition brought in? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this debate defines the future of this team. And if you love Minnesota Vikings news, deep analysis, and passionate Vikings talk, you know what to do. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with every Vikings fan you know. Skol, and let's see where this offseason takes us.